Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, I'm Jen. This is Farabee. Farabee is a standard poodle. She's 4.5 years old. She's my service dog, and she also communicates with AIC buttons. And today I want to talk to you about how I thought that I was a really great dog mom, and then turns out I wasn't. So I want to tell you things that I've learned, things that might be able to help you. Just for a little history, I have had dogs my whole entire life. I've been solely responsible for dogs for over 20 years. I thought that I had it together. I really thought that I was making them happy. I thought that I did everything I could do. And in my defense, I really did everything that we know, right? Like that the mass public knows. I made sure they had toys. I made sure that they got to go outside and go, to the bathroom and go for walks and stuff. But I really didn't realize what all a dog actually needs until we got AIC buttons for Farabee. Puzzle. Okay, we can puzzle. We've had AIC buttons since April of 2020, so about almost 4 years, not quite yet. So whenever we got AIC buttons, of course, Farabee was then able to ask for things. And the first thing that I've noticed, that I always have noticed since she's had buttons, is she needs to go to the bathroom way more than I, number one, had ever offered any animal that I've ever had in my life, right? And obviously it's more than I expected. She truly needs to go to the bathroom that much. And I'm not saying that they can't hold it, because I've worked from home for a very long time. And even before I worked from home, Bella went to work with me from the time that she was about 3 years old on until I started working from home. So I've always taken them out maybe every 4 hours or whenever I go to the bathroom. So I was making sure I was taking them in what I felt like was, a decent amount of time, not too long. And of course, if they ever asked to go out, they could go out too. But even though those dogs were able to ask to go to the bathroom, it still isn't the same, because I know, and I'm sure I'm guilty of this, and I can't, of course, go back and actually visualize it, but I'm positive that there are even times with Farabee where I'm like, really? You need to go? You just went. And I'll take her if she says it again, because sometimes she really does just want to go sniff or go outside again. But if she says potty again, if I'm it's been, 20 minutes, are you sure? And she says it again and I take her, she truly will pee or do number two every single time. I think she's only lied to me after I've asked her, do you really need to go potty? Once ever. Because typically I can just ask her and she'll be honest and she's like, oh no, I just want to go sniff or whatever. And we typically will do that if it's, weather appropriate or if we have time or whatever. Anyways, so I just know, I'm sure that there were times with my other dogs where they would probably be going around the door and me not even think anything about it. I'm sure I probably thought, well, they're probably just smelling where our shoes were or, from the outside or whatever. And now with Farabee, I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys need to pee a lot more than I thought. By the way, I can't envision having an animal without AIC buttons ever, because there's just so much that I've learned. But if for some reason I did have an animal who didn't have AIC buttons, I would definitely be taking them out more than what I thought. I don't know, it depends on what animal community you're in, but a lot of places will say oh, they can hold it for 8 hours. Even whenever I was doing 4 hours, I just know that was too long. That's not fair if they've drank or something. I mean, just because you can hold it doesn't mean you should have to. You know what I mean? Another thing that I've learned from having her communicate with AIC buttons is how much having her food in different containers means. So her puzzle's out right now. She likes to have her food in a topple, a puzzle, a lick mat, anything at all. She doesn't really like to eat out of a bowl. Before, with my other dogs, puzzles, I used that as a special occasion thing. And I'm really sad about that, thinking back, because they seriously didn't get a puzzle every day. And there's no reason they shouldn't have. I didn't know. I truly didn't know. I had no idea that that was a thing that they needed daily. I didn't know they needed to have daily, that kind of enrichment. And whenever they got puzzles, they loved it, of course. They went crazy. But I don't know why we didn't do them more. But now, because of course, Farabee has buttons so she can ask for it, and I realize how much it means to her. Farabee gets a puzzle 3 to 5 times a day usually. Sometimes she'll ask for other stuff like a topple or a snoop or a lick mat or something, but usually it's puzzles. She likes to eat out of a puzzle because she likes the activity. I wish that I had known that with my other dogs, because I just think they would have been happier, just to have something to look forward to do. It's just really sad to think about that they didn't get a chance to have the type of life that she has. And there's nothing I can do. I can't go back, but what I'm trying to do is tell y'all so that you can help your dogs have a better life. I'm editing this right now. I just wanted to pop in and say, I'm giving you examples based on what Farabee wants, but of course every dog is going to be different. So not every dog is going to even like puzzles. This is just examples of what I've learned from her having a way to communicate. So that was why I said I can't imagine having a dog or a cat or any animal living with me without a way to communicate, just because they are, they have complex needs, and it's really hard to like guess what that is without giving them a way to tell, I guess. So take the guessing out, right? But I just wanted to mention that some dogs do find puzzles to be upsetting because it can be frustrating if they're not really, wanting to be a problem solver. So be sure to give your dog or cat options, and, don't think just because this form of enrichment is what my dog wants, it's not necessarily going to be what yours wants, but still try to find forms of enrichment that suit your specific dog or cat's needs. Obviously, a lot of this is button centered so far with me telling you what she wants. So if you are interested in getting buttons, I actually have a button teaching guide where it tells you everything that you need to know to teach them. And I have links for the buttons and discount codes too. I have a ton of AIC videos on my channel too that can help you. But I'm a big fan of buttons. But if you don't want to do buttons, if it's not within your budget, or it's just something that you don't want to do and you want to give your dog a way to advocate for themselves a little more, you can always ask them questions. Just ask them, like, do you want a puzzle? And you can do the yes and no game. So you would hold your hand up, this is yes, this is no, and you teach them to boop whichever one they want. So yes, of course, means yes, no is no. And that way they can pick and advocate for themselves a little bit. So in this case, you would just have to ask them things. So you would be the person who's kind of giving them the questions and saying, do you want to go to the PARK? She's right here and I don't want to do that. And then if they're like yes or no, then you go the next thing. Do you want to go WALK? And then yes or no. You may have to ask them a lot of questions, but at least they can kind of advocate for themselves. Farabee sometimes does not want to do WALK. Sometimes she truly just wants to go out and sniff in the yard. And she truly doesn't want to go anywhere else. So I'm sure there's other dogs like that too. There's a lot of dogs who don't really necessarily want to go for the full WALK every single day. Giving them a way to ask for that kind of stuff and letting them opt out is a really good thing that you can do with just a yes or no. You can also do this with body language. You can tell if they don't want to go. You can tell if you're getting ready to go and they're not coming up to the door or going with you where they normally would to get ready to go. It's okay for them to opt out. Everyone needs time to relax. Back to the buttons for a minute. I think it's really fascinating to see what she wants to talk about with the buttons. So she does like to ask questions, and I find that to be just really interesting because I never thought about dogs having questions about things. And of course, whenever you think about it, it's like, duh, of course they have questions. Why would they not wonder about things? She has a why button and a button. And she asks me questions about stuff that I am like, are you serious? You're seriously asking me why? If I tell her no, sometimes she'll say why. She's asked about where the owls go. She's asked questions about lizards before, where they sleep. She's asked all kinds of questions that I'm just like, are you serious? I think she's asked me why it was raining or something too. She has, she really wants to know things. So I think that's a neat thing that we can just kind of know about animals, you know what I mean? About non-human animals, about how they do want to find out things. And they kind of do have questions just like a little kid does. I would have never known basic stuff. She doesn't want to go out and just do the walk. She wants to go sniff. She truly just wants to go sniff. She wants us to do things together. And I know you can understand that from body language by understanding and realizing they're wanting to be with you. But the amount of things that she wants to do and wants me with her, she wants me to go on the porch with her. And she'll say, if I don't go, she'll come back and be like, we together porch or together porch or something. The same thing with puzzles. She wants me to puzzle with her. I didn't know that being together that mattered so much to her. I knew that being together like this matters and she wants to sit with me, but I never knew that dogs wanted you to do everything, everything with them. I wanted to give you some ideas that can help you enrich your animal's life. So ideas that I have for you are, of course, take them places that they haven't necessarily been to or they don't get to go to a lot. Even just going to different parks, go in a different way whenever you walk. And of course, if your dog or cat likes car rides, car ride itself can be an enriching experience. So you can listen to music that they like, you can roll windows down a little bit, take the back roads, that kind of thing. That can be an enrichment activity on its own, because once again, if they're stuck in the house all the time, just going in the car and seeing something different and smelling something different can be huge. So you don't even have to get out anywhere. You can just literally go for a ride, as long as they like it, of course. By the way, I think this kind of goes without saying, since I'm talking about how to be a good pet parent. If any of this stuff is stuff that your animals don't want to do, then obviously you're not going to do it. So if they don't want to go in the car, you're not going to make them. If they don't want to eat out of a puzzle, you're not going to make them. It's about giving them choice and letting them see what they might like to do. This is definitely more dog-centered activity, but a lot of dogs like water, so you could fill up a kiddie pool. Of course, you could take them to a place where dogs can get in water, a little creek, a pond, anything like that. Of course, if you have an area that would be safe. A little note of caution about that: with the weather warming up, a lot of standing water, like lakes, will get algae in it. This can be toxic to dogs and actually kill them. So you need to be paying attention to what bodies of water you are taking your dogs to, and making sure that you're staying up to date, and making sure you know the information about the area. They typically shouldn't be ingesting water out of the ocean or the lake anyway, but that does happen occasionally. We just want to make sure that we're starting with as safe of an environment as we can, just in case they do ingest water. Hide and seek is another fun game that you can play with your dogs and your cats too. I did this as a kid with my cats. Horse. Yeah. So hide and seek can also be a really fun game for dogs and cats. So whenever I was little, I had a kitty cat named Tipper, and me and him played hide and seek a lot. So you can totally do this with a cat. I had cats, by the way, I had cats up until 5 years ago. So I've had cats literally since the day I was born until 5 years ago. So I do know about cats. I just never have had cats with buttons. So I do kind of know a little bit about kitty cats, but just not as much as I could, because they didn't have buttons. So obviously a lot of my stuff that I'm telling you is stuff that therapy has taught me, so I'm just sharing. But anyway, so cats and dogs both like to play hide and seek. So this can be you hiding. This is how I always played with my cat. I would go hide and he would come find me, and he would always jump out. Cats do that. He would always jump out whenever he found me like that, and it was super fun. I was a kid, so oh my goodness. But dogs like to play hide and seek too. And we do a sniffy game that's a hide and seek. So it's little pouches that I hide around the house. You could totally do this with things that you already have that are free at your house. You can save some toilet paper tubes, the roll things, the paper roll. You could save those and fold up the ends and hide those and put treats in them. One of my friends, she has some type of silicone little ball things that I don't know what they're for, but they're some type of little silicone ball. I'll see if I can get her to tell me where she got them, and I'll link them for you. Easter eggs are a good one, the ones that are plastic that you put stuff in. I'll link the sniffy game that we have, but also, like I said, you could totally do this with Easter eggs. You could do this with toilet paper rolls, anything at all. You could just hide treats by themselves. It doesn't matter. Anything at all that you can hide for your dog to go find, that's really fun for them. This is kind of more for dogs, but an agility course, even if it's inside, you don't have to have anything fancy. Keep in mind, whenever we were kids, we played things like hopscotch, okay? So that's literally on the ground, just drawn with chalk, and you're using your imagination and hopping. So your dog doesn't have to have a fancy agility kit. Your dog doesn't have to have a fancy agility kit. You can totally buy one. I have one that's pretty affordable. I'll link the one that we have if you're interested in that. But before we had that, my other dogs, we used to pool noodle because they were little, and I would just I cut a pool noodle up into pieces, and we would just lay it over the floor. And because they were 10 pounds, that's a jump, a little something like that high, that's a jump for a 10-pound dog. And even if you have a dog who maybe can't do high impact sports, still for them to go over it, they don't have to jump. They can just go over it and follow a little course. That's fun. You can get weave poles, of course. You can actually buy weave poles. You can also use something you have at home. If you've ever played soccer or have had a kid who's played soccer, then you might have the little cones that you set up. Obviously, if your dog is really big, those cones are only like this tall, so that might get a little dicey. You might need weave poles in that case. You're not doing this like it's a competition. You're not doing this to prep for anything. You're doing this for your dog to have fun. So you don't have to have the coolest equipment. You can also use your body. You can have them jump over your arm. Obviously, if your dog is okay with jumping, and they can. You can have them jump over your legs. You can have them weave through your legs. There's all kinds of little things that you can do just to kind of play kind of agility games with them that's going to get them excited and give them something to look forward to. Another fun thing to do is trick training with your dog and your cat both. So of course, different animals are going to have different skill sets and abilities and also desires, right? Cats don't necessarily want to do a bunch of tricks, but there's a ton of tricks that you can teach your dog and your cat. Obviously, let them opt in and out of this. If your dog or cat doesn't want to do tricks, they shouldn't have to. This should never be something that's forced. This should always be fun. And if you are doing trick training, always make sure you end on a positive note. If you're trying to teach high five and they don't understand, and you know they know sit, end on sit. You know what I mean? If they're frustrated or if they're trying to walk away or they're not into it, then obviously that's okay. It can be done. They don't have to do this. This should be a fun, exciting thing that should enrich their life. And if we're forcing them or we're making them do tricks they don't feel comfortable doing, or we're making them do tricks in a time when they don't want to, then it takes the fun out. It's not serving the purpose that it should be serving. This should be for them. They shouldn't be forced, but also they're not going to be as excited. So the next time you do training, they're not going to want to do training. They're going to want to do their own thing because they're going to be like, this sucked last time. I mean, just definitely make sure your animal's opting in and out of all of these things. I mentioned this about going for car rides and listening to music, but Fairby asks to listen to music a lot. So she has preferences of what she likes and what she doesn't like. She really likes a lot. She likes Taylor Swift a lot, to be honest. But she also likes anything. I don't know if you can hear our music in the background here, but we leave just kind of background music. This is nature sounds and a harp or something. She likes that kind of stuff. It's very soothing to her. Just from my understanding of people I've talked to, a lot of animals do like that type of music where it's just kind of that spa, just very gentle in the background type of thing is calming to them, just like it is to us. So that's a really good idea too. There are programs for dogs on TV nowadays. You can just turn on birds on YouTube or whatever for your cat too, or your dog or whoever. That kind of stuff can be fun. Not all animals want to watch TV, and that is not going to be the same form of enrichment. But if you're gone all day and you can't do stuff, you're not going to be able to have the window open. You're not going to be able to go out for the safari. You're not going to be able to make the puzzles. So maybe considering turning music on, or if your dog or cat does like to watch TV, you can totally turn the TV on, something that they would like too. Puzzle. We'll do puzzle in just a second. Let me finish this, okay? We're gonna go do puzzles. If you're interested in getting AIC buttons for your dog or cat, I will link a playlist for y'all actually at the end of this. And also you can go to my website, jenfarrer.com. I'll link it for you, but I have a ton of AIC resources. I'll link the buttons that we like below as well. I'll also link my AIC quick start guide for you as well. Also, if you are a dog parent and you want some ideas for different socialization tricks and things like that, all of my planners, not the books, but the actual planners, all of the planners, Service Dog, Dog Mom, and AIC, they all also have a list of socialization. Of course, the Service Dog one's a little bit more heavy because, they have different needs as far as that goes. But they all have tricks. They all have socialization ideas, things you can do with your pet at pet-friendly places. I think I've covered pretty much everything here, but I haven't covered all the tricks and stuff, but I think I've covered all of the things you can do. They have enrichment ideas. So basically, it's everything that I just told you guys, plus individualized socialization and tricks and things too. And of course, a way to plan your life with your dog or service dog or talking dog or whoever you have. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We're gonna go puzzle and we will see you soon. Bye.